Hello everybody, Treno here, and finally after much grinding I now have access to the TOG2 Super Heavy Tank. Of course, as you probably are all aware, this was part of the Dreams Come True event. If you completed 6 stages, I've now got all 6 stages and thus have unlocked the TOG2. And this is in the British tech tree at rank 3, battle rating 5.3. And there are actually 2 variants of this. I mentioned it in my dev blog video. You've got the initial prototype version, which is how it exists in real life. But if you go to modifications, you can get the TOG2 Great War pattern, which adds about 5,000 kilos to the weight of the vehicle, increasing your braking distance and acceleration time, and primarily in gameplay adding these side-mounted sponsons with machine guns and a 76mm howitzer. Now, unfortunately, the howitzer can only fire smoke shells, and they do add quite a bit of ammunition. You can see here at the front that this is all the ammunition for the howitzer. And unfortunately, the machine guns are just non-functional. And to be honest, while they probably weren't going to be a massive game changer in battle, it would have been nice to actually have the option of using them. And also, I thought from a historic perspective, this would be quite a good addition because I was vaguely aware it had been mounted with the side-mounted sponsons. Double checking, it seems like only a mock-up was actually fitted with these, so it probably didn't actually ever have these fitted on the prototype. I'm not 100% sure about the howitzer. So basically, from a gameplay perspective, other than the smoke shells from the howitzer, it doesn't really seem to add much to the game. And from a historic perspective, it's also, you know, more of a what-if than an actual historical vehicle, which, to be fair, Gaijin did say that's what they were going for with this additional modification. But I'll probably just play this as the initial prototype version primarily. And we start off by taking a look at the prototype version and its stats. So we've got the 94mm 28 pounder gun, which is the gun that it's actually fitted with in real life. Unfortunately, it can only fire 2 shells, an APC-BC shell with 192mm penetration at 500 meters, and a HE shell with 13mm penetration at all distances, as well as a 7.92mm machine gun in a coaxial position. And if we look at the turret itself, it's actually quite good in the targeting aspects. So it's got a horizontal targeting speed of 23 degrees a second, and at stock, add cruise skills onto that and it will be a lot faster. So pretty good at turning to target enemies. The vertical speed is only 2.8 degrees a second, which could be a bit of an issue, but isn't the worst thing in the world either. And it's got a reload rate of 7.8 seconds, which is a little bit long, but again, it is quite a powerful weapon. And the gunner has an optics with a zoom of 3 times to 6 times. So it should be decent enough at long-range shooting, especially at tier 3. And if you look at the howitzer, it does only have a horizontal guidance of +4 degrees. So there is not much traverse at all on that. Although its targeting speed is 11 degrees a second, so pretty fast. And it's got a reload rate of 8.1 seconds. But again, it can only fire smoke shells. So it's not going to be hugely effective against other enemies, at least directly. And the gun is already more powerful than the 88mm on the Tiger 1. And if we move to the armour, it's about the same as on the Tiger 1, so it's 101mm thickness for the upper whole front plate, with an effective thickness of about 110-ish to nearly 120. The lower whole front plate is only 76mm, but it is very well sloped, and it is a quite hard target to hit. The actual upper superstructure is only about 101mm, so again, that is about the same as the Tiger 1, so again, it's not the worst thing in the world, and this is 0.3 of battle rating lower than that vehicle. The turret's probably a bit worse than the Tiger 1, especially at the front, as it only has 127mm thickness, or 102mm for the actual mantlet bit around here, but the rest of the tank is about 88.9mm around the turret, which I think is a little bit more than the Tiger 1. And the side armour is 76.2mm, while the rear is only 19.5mm, but it is sloped and, as you can see here, you've got a massive engine and a massive transmission. So if you're shot at by an enemy, let's just push the boat out and say you're shot at by a Tiger 2, right on the whole rear. So 222mm penetration theoretically, but it's mainly just absorbed by the transmission and the engine. So like with the IS-2 and a few other tanks, I think this will probably be quite effective when reversed to enemies. And it can actually do that because if we go to the X-ray module, it has the same top speed in reverse and going forward. Unfortunately, it's only 8.7 miles per hour on 5 gears. It's got a 600 horsepower engine. But like I say, if you want to reverse this at the enemy, it will offer you much greater protection, with only your turret really being vulnerable to the enemy. And as you can see, it weighs 77.5 tons, making this one of the heavier vehicles in War Thunder. And then lastly, moving on to the crew, you've got your driver and machine gunner at the front here. And you've got 2 machine gunners where the sponsons would be, though, like I say, even if you've got the sponsons installed, they can't actually do anything. And then you've got your gunner, commander, and 2 loaders in the turret itself. So you've got a total of 8 crew, which should in theory make it a bit harder to knock out, but they are all cramped in one very small area, and they're all right next to ammunition. But again, if you're reversing at the enemy, they'll all be very well protected from ammo racks, at least from, at least when shot at from the rear. Of course, if you're shot at from the sides, that'll make things even worse. And if you've got the howitzer installed, you'll have more ammunition around here, which will make getting ammo racked from the front extremely easy. It does also come with a whole bunch of camouflages, just going to test out 1 or 2 of them. So you've got the North African bicolour camouflage, got the winter camouflage, got the European camouflage, etc, etc. And so we're going to take this out for a test drive. We'll take it out in the Great War Pattern version, just so we can test out the howitzer as well, and just see how well it does with regards to mobility and shooting, etc, etc. So we've spawned in, and straight away you can see that turret traverse is just ludicrous. I mean, that is ridiculous. I swear there aren't many other tanks with this sort of traverse speed in-game at tier 3. I mean, we've done a 360-degree traverse in, what, under 10 seconds? And there's a target over there. We're going to shoot at it first, Panzer IV, and just completely obliterated it straight away. Of course, it wasn't exactly going to bounce that shot because this does have a ridiculous amount of penetration. Let's go after the Panther at the back there. Okay, didn't penetrate the upper hull front plate. Try and aim for the turret if we can. Ricocheted off the cupola that time. And that time we managed to get through the turret. Didn't do that much damage, which of course is going to be a bit of a problem with this shell because it is just a solid AP shell. But we can easily penetrate the front of the Panther turret from this distance, which is about 450 meters. So at least from this sort of range, the Panther is vulnerable at least to the turret. And of course we do have the howitzer, which is controlled by the R key. Doesn't seem like I can actually switch to just targeting with the howitzer, unfortunately, so we're just going to press R. Fires the smoke shell, and you can see it doesn't have the best traverse with the howitzer, at least. It's got a little bit, but not much. And we've now inevitably got to test out the mobility of this vehicle, and so going from the spawn, we've already reached our top speed of 9 miles per hour. Well, technically a little under 9 miles per hour. I'm guessing it is just rounding up. So as you can see, this is not going to be leading the charge into the enemy anytime soon. It's just far too slow. This is definitely going to be a bringing up the rear kind of vehicle, maybe sniping from a distance. It's not going to be something you'll want to bring into the main battle, at least for, charging off on your own sort of thing. Well, you can't charge off on your own. You will be left behind by literally everything. Fortunately, like I said before, the turret does have very good traverse, so at least you'll be able to react very quickly to enemies. We'll try out just turning it on the spot just to see how well it does that at least. And, oh god, that is ridiculously slow. Let's try and do it, like this. Okay, it's still quite slow, but it's going a little bit better. You're definitely going to have to rely on your turret traverse if you're trying to turn to face the enemy. And yeah, like I say, you can charge at the enemy like this and use your massive transmission enemy to just eat shells from the enemy. That is a perfectly viable strategy as far as I can see. And I can see this being the way that it is taken into battle by quite a few players. We'll just see how it does crossing a trench, considering that is probably one of the obstacles it probably would have been best suited to actually crossing due to its massive length. And yeah, it seems to have crossed that pretty easily. And you can just sort of see how much traverse the howitzer has. It doesn't have the most traverse. Just a little bit, just to, you know, aim correct on a few targets when needed. And so that is the TOG2 and its variant, the Great War Pattern. And I think this will be a pretty decent tank for Britain. I mean, like I say, it's got a very powerful gun. It's got armour comparable to a Tiger 1 while being 0.3 of a battle rating lower. It does have a very low speed, but like I said, it has got a massive advantage in the ability to use that transmission and engine to block enemy shots. And its large crew could in theory provide quite a lot of redundancy to crew losses, but that ammunition at the front here is going to be a bit of a weak spot. And if you take that howitzer, of course, you're going to have even more of a weak spot at the front when you get these additional shells fitted to the vehicle. But overall, I think the TOG2 has been worth the wait. We'll have to see how it actually performs in battles, but I think this will be a pretty effective vehicle for the British tank tech tree, especially for grinding in the lower tiers. So anyway, just a quick video for today. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you'll join me for the next episode. Feel free to follow me on any of my social media links that I've got linked below. I've been Terreno, and I'll see you next time.